You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Haunted Histories with your host Penny G. Morgan, right here on Parasearch Radio.
And a very warm welcome to another episode of Haunted Histories with yours truly, Penny G. Morgan. Well, did you enjoy last week's show on Ghosts of the Workhouse? Good. If you didn't enjoy it, then all criticism to the BBC, please. That's a joke, if you didn't work out. If you haven't listened yet, what are you playing at? It's all there, ready and waiting for you on Spreaker and YouTube. And as I'm obliged to say, all the other Parasearch shows are there too, that you've not had the chance to catch up on. Go and fill your boots and spend the next 5 hours listening to shows. Well, after mine, obviously, because you're here listening to this now, so you might as well listen to this first. Right, it's competition time. Our gorgeous friends at Fright Nights London have been kind enough to give us two free tickets to their investigation at the superb Fort Horsted on the 17th of March. Fort Horsted is down in Kent, in case you didn't know. Now, if you want a chance to win said tickets, go over to the Parasearch group page, give the competition post a quick like, leave a comment so we know you want to win them, and then sit back and wait until next week's Haunted History show, where my guest will be Tammy Guyamadi, and we're going to be talking about Prague and the kind of underground city underneath Prague. Full terms and conditions are on the post. Right. The next thing I want to say is a bit of a begging request. I'm running at the Brighton Marathon in April. I don't know what has possessed me to do it, because I absolutely hate running. But I thought it might be a good way to raise money for Dementia UK and the work they do, providing support and guidance to the families and carers of people with this horrible disease of dementia. If you've never heard of Admiral Nurses, go and have a look. I suppose the easiest thing to say is they're kind of the dementia equivalent of Macmillan Nurses, I suppose. But if you can spare a few quid to incentivise me to keep going, I would greatly appreciate it, you lovely lot. So thank you. Hi Kerry, good evening. So, tonight we're going to be heading down under and talking with blogger and investigator Sarah Chimacero of Living Life in Full Spectrum about a place which she absolutely loves, and loves so much that she co-created a group to run investigations there to raise its profile and help fund the continuation of the place as a museum and attraction. I will admit, before Sarah mentioned this place to me, I, like many others, I would guess, especially people outside of Victoria or Australia, had never heard of it. But it is a genuinely intriguing building once you start looking into it. Thanks for posting that, Kerry. Kerry's just kindly posted up to the link to my begging page for Dementia UK on the chat room if anyone is interested in helping a girl out. Well, Blackrock. Hi, Carly. Blackrock itself, it is a strange place. When you look at just the pictures of it, it looks like a normal sort of, I suppose, Australian sort of, I don't know, homestead. But when you look up further, it has a massive castle-type wall around it. Now, nobody really knows why. Was it to keep people out, or was it more to do with the owner's eccentric personality? Now, I'm not going to try and do too much on history because Sarah knows so much more about this place than I could ever find out. But the guy who built it was somebody by the name of Charles Ebden. And he built it in 1856 and it was finished in 1858. And he was actually the first Auditor General of Victoria. He was born in 1811 in South Africa and was renowned for being a wee bit of a character. Being both a pastoralist, that is a sheep farmer to you and I, politician and businessman. His peculiarities of temperament, so said by the then Lieutenant Governor Charles Latrobe, led to him quickly being frustrated by his role as Auditor General, as he didn't like having to defend policies which he had no part in making. And also, it's believed, his non-promotion to Colonial Treasurer led to his resignation in 1852 from politics. Hi, Kaz! He did become involved with future administrations in some fashion, but refused actually to take on a role in government due to his anti-land squatting beliefs, potentially causing problems for the government's land bills. Now, Ebden was seen as a bit of a dandy, and he quite fancied himself as a kind of a Beau Brummel type character. Now, for anyone who doesn't know who Beau Brummel was, he was an iconic figure in Regency England, and for many years the arbiter of men's fashion, and at one time he was a close friend of the Prince Regent, the future King George IV. A dandy could also be described as a self-made man who looked to imitate possibly a more aristocratic lifestyle, despite coming from more middle-class or slightly lower leanings. It didn't end well for Beau Brummel, though. He died destitute and penniless from syphilis in Caen in France, after running away there to escape debtors' prisons due to his gambling and lifestyle debts. Actually, debtors' prisons, that's not something we've talked about on the show before, is it? Maybe I should find something to talk about, because that does tie in quite closely with the workhouse movement. Anyway, I'm digressing, I apologise. Ebden was a bit luckier than Beau. He moved back to England in 1861 and spent about 5 years there, albeit in quite poor health and virtually an invalid due to his asthma. Upon returning to Australia in 1866, his health did improve quite a bit, but he died about 12 months later in 1867, leaving an estate worth over $100,000 to his wife. Now, I did a little bit of a calculation on here. I'm, a financial advisor by trade, and I reckon that sum would probably have been equivalent to around £10 million now. So his infamous line, "I fear I have become disgustingly rich," was probably true. So, enough of that. Shall we hear all about this house that Ebden built and Sarah's experiences with it? Stay with me. Okay, and we're now joined by one of my absolutely gorgeous friends from down under, Australia, if anyone doesn't realise where I'm talking about. She not only is she very gorgeous, she's also a part of Paranormal X-Files. She's also part of Haunted Informer, and she also does a brilliant blog, which you've probably seen shared on the Parasearch page, called Living Life in Full Spectrum. Mrs. Sarah Chumacero, how are you doing?
Hello, good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. Thank you ever so much for taking the time. It's sort of early mid-morning where you are, isn't it?
It is. It's almost lunchtime on a Sunday for me.
Oh. And how warm is it in Australia right now?
It's only going to be 22 today, so a lot colder.
Only.
But yesterday was 30. So.
Oh, shut up. Shut up. We only started getting rid of the snow where I am today, so I'm jealous of those temperatures. I'm jealous.
It's been nice, but we're in the end of the year now, or the start of the year. We've just hit autumn, so it's going to start getting cold very quickly over the next month.
Yeah, but cold for you is not cold for us, is it?
No. My cold's kind of like maybe 15.
See, that's still
that's
t-shirt
really
weather.
Cold.
That's t-shirt weather.
That's really cold.
Oh dear, you wouldn't
That's, oh my God, crank it up.
Oh, you wouldn't cope over here, my love. You wouldn't cope. You'd be sitting there in jumpers in our summer, I think.
Yeah, no.
Well, the reason Sarah's on the show tonight, apart from the fact we love her, I mean, you may remember her from one of Kerry's shows. I can't remember what you discussed. What was it you discussed?
It was just all about the blog and just all about what I've done paranormal investigating and just discussing a few of the different articles and general topics in the paranormal that we all sort of love to deal with, like orbs. We had a great discussion about orbs.
Yeah, we won't go there tonight. Yeah, two things are off the list: orbs and demons. We're not talking about those tonight. If that's right.
Demons. No, that's
demons.
fine by me.
No,
which one?
Fine. Which one? Yeah. For anyone you may not get the joke, Sarah's brother Glenn is also part of the groups that Sarah works with, and he studied demonology with. It was somebody quite well known.
He did it with Bishop Long.
That's it.
So he's the dude that's in Ghost Adventures that does all the exorcisms in Ghost Adventures.
And Glenn has a perfect comeback for anyone who says there's a demon in their property or the residence they're in. And what's his comeback, Sarah?
He says, which one?
Yeah.
Because in demonology, the demons all have, a name. And usually people say, what? What do you mean? What do you mean, which one? What do you mean, what's their name?
See, I like his style. I do like his style. I have passed that information on to people, so he might have to copyright it soon so he starts earning money off that question.
Yes. So for anyone listening, it belongs to Glenn.
So we're not going to discuss demons and we're not going to discuss orbs.
No.
But if anyone has read any of Sarah's blogs, her articles, I say we do share them on the Parasearch page. They are really interesting, and I know Sarah's always appreciative of feedback and comments and everything else. And I know from my perspective, when I'm doing these kind of shows, feedback and comments and stuff, it normally gives you ideas for more shows. So yes. I'm sure you're the same, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. I'll have people contact me and even just say, hey, what about this topic? Or they'll just say, have you written about this? Or what do you think of this issue? And I'll say, hey, you know what? I'll do an article on it. Or they just want to know my thoughts. Why don't you do an article on this topic? Yeah. And I've had quite a few of that happen, and I'm so grateful. It just opens up a whole conversation, because if one investigator thinks it, then obviously lots of others do too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. It's because, some people who listen to my show may not have listened to Kerry's when she interviewed you. What got you into the paranormal in the first place?
Initially it was just, I can't say that I had a, compounding experience when I was little or anything like that, because I didn't. I always just sort of believed in the afterlife and had a few, sort of when I was young and a teenager, dabbled in Ouija boards and all that kind of stuff as kids do. I didn't really think much of it, and I actually thought it was all a bunch of crap really at that point. When I became older, when I was 21, my grandfather passed away, and I actually had what I considered to be my first paranormal experience, because I believe that I was sort of making contact with him. And I started watching, the TV shows. So we had TV shows like Ghost Hunters and Most Haunted and all of that thing, and I really enjoyed them. And one day my brother kept saying to me, we need to go out and do an investigation, but I was too scared. And it actually took a couple of years for me to actually get the courage to do it. And I, just went out on one investigation, and I fell in love with it. And I more fell in love with the history behind it, so the stories. And I'd go to a location and they'd say, oh, you're making contact with, say, this particular spirit. So I'd actually go home and I'd actually try to bring up the records and see if I could find out more about this particular person and what they did in life, and, information about the building. So it was combining a love of sort of being able